Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream, and this is the welcome screen from Train Sim World 3 that has problems connecting to my Dovetail live account, so give me a second to fix this until we can proceed. It's actually nice that it worked with transferring the progress from Train Sim World 2 to Train Sim World 3 even in my Epic setup. But unfortunately it sometimes does not remember my credentials. But we will get this sorted out, just a little while. If not, no, it does not want my credentials. Then we skip it. And I have an invalid connection and I cannot get points for the achievements. Okay, I'm sorry for this. Hey AJ, thank you for moderating my stream and joining me on this late evening. Well, maybe the evening is not so late, but it feels late because it was really a long and hard day today. So what is there better than to enjoy the calm and soothe of some train driving? What I wanted to do today is to take you and me to the Oakville subdivision, what is a rather oldish DLC. It was a DLC that was released 2 years ago or something, and it is a bit isolated because it does not layer out and nothing is layering in. Nevertheless, I think it is a quite beautiful DLC, if not maybe the most the most diverse when it comes to train setups and stuff. But it has the unique ability to tank your tank cars full with ethanol. And this is what we will be doing in our first service. I was planning, if I can read my notes actually, to spawn in a place called, not Oakville, that's too fast, Burlington. And in the winter, so I go to January, and then, if I can read my notes, it's 14:15 that the service is about to start, so I will start at 14:10 at the station that is connected with this little town, and then we will just walk on foot to I have to do that again because I wanted to have some snow. So, to the trains, to the route, Oakville subdivision, timetable, GP 9RM, no, great on foot, start at Burlington, 14:10 in January, and I wanted to have light snow. Yes. Now we're talking. Yeah, that is really a nice picture with that lightning strike hitting the subway. Well, now there we are. This is the station in Burlington, and we have here not really working PIS screens because there are unfortunately no passenger services, but nevertheless there are passengers. We have this nice walkway here with the glass where we can look down to the track, and over there where you can see the water tower. This is where the freight yard is, and where we are starting yeah, where we are starting our service today. It looks a bit cold, that is true, and I wanted to start here in the snow and walk a bit around because I really appreciate the new snow graphics that came with Train Sim World 3, and it is so much better than the old system. The track rendering with snow on it looks so much better. The snow animation itself, I think it is the same, but the way that the snow actually amasses on the track and on the leaves and stuff, that looks really cool for my liking. And I've always liked snow, and so I'm quite happy that they invested all this effort to get the snow graphics better, even though you don't have so many months in the game where you can actually encounter snow, because most of the months are too warm for snow. Yeah, not only when it is icy, trains actually drop a lot of sand on the tracks to get more friction between the steel wheels and the steel track when accelerating, when slowing down. So where is my train? Unfortunately the train is not here. Did I get the time wrong? Oh yeah, it's 15:15. So we are 1 hour late. So this is a bit of a confusion to start with, but never mind, we will just jump into the service here without walking up to it right now, and then I can finish the story about the sand. So I actually was not able to read my my notes. It's the 15, the one that is in the journey, and I only got a bronze medal, but this is not my fault, I guess. Sometimes there is not enough in the service to get better. 1 hour meditating with snow. Yeah, well, I will skip this. I will skip this 1 hour and just jump into our locomotive. Here is the train. You might have seen this is the yard where we have been walking to. I wanted to go in there and say hello to those guys. Hello guys, what's up? Yeah, they actually came into this DLC with the last preservation crew update, meaning that they put some people here in this DLC. They even put some on a signal posts, on a signal bridge, what looks quite cool, but looks a bit dangerous, especially when there is a thunderstorm. So, this is our locomotive, a GP9, a really old thing, was built in the 50s and 60s latest. Obviously it has been modernized since then, and from what you can read, the Canadian National Railway actually has 29 of them still in service by 2022. And we are supposed to operate those 5 tank cars here and to load them. To load those freight cars with ethanol, and we have those pump station here where we can actually dock our train and get the ethanol in the cars. But for that we have to first uncouple our cars and get the locomotive to the other side. So the first thing that we do is actually leave the locomotive. How heavy is it today? It is not that heavy today because they are still empty, and when we fill them they will be a lot heavier. So I will uncouple them first, So they are uncoupled. As soon as they are coupled again, I will have a look on the pause screen to tell you actually how heavy the train is. But this locomotive is a really small locomotive if you compare it with the others that we had in this stream already. It just has not even 2000 horsepower, and yeah, it's more or less a shunting locomotive. You see, it does not even have a dynamic brake, only the air brake, and still we will go on the open track with it. How to set up this thing? We put in the reverser, obviously, then we have to activate the engine run, the control and fuel pump and the generator field, and then set up the brakes. The MU valve on the lead locomotive needs to be on lead or dead. Then independent brake full on so that we can activate the automatic brake to release, cut it into freight, and then you can see here how the equalizing reservoir and the brake pipe go up to 90. Since the train is really short, also the end, what we can read here, is at 90 very fast, so that there is actually not a big problem. Since we uncoupled the cars, the end is only the end of the locomotive, so not really a problem. We have to turn on the numbering lights. This we don't need to operate. Safety devices and the alerter control always on, please. And then we have some classification lights. I'm not totally sure how you're supposed to use them properly. I always set them to white on the front and to red on the back, what I'm used to from German railroads and from British railroads. I have no idea what they do in Canada with that. Front headlights to bright, rear headlights to dim, and the front ditch lights on. If you look at the setup, you can see that also the platform lights here are on. Those are the ditch lights that are supposed to light up the ditches. That's why they are on so close to the ground. Those are the headlights, the main headlights, and those two are the classification lights, and the number lights obviously are on. There are also some ground lights here on this locomotive that you can turn on if you want. I think it is... no, those are the platform lights. The ground lights are step lights. Where are the ground lights? Somewhere I found them. Now maybe this is on the other locomotive that is in this DLC. Okay, no ground lights for this one. Gauge lights we have, but I actually prefer them to be not lit. What is cool in this locomotive, what we don't have on a lot of locomotive actually, is that we have a working airflow meter. You can actually set this hand here for the airflow that you expect to happen, and then the black hand tells you how much or how fast the air is propagating through your brake pipe. Doesn't make a lot of sense now because we don't have a long brake pipe, because we don't have a train. Maybe we'll have a look at this later when we actually have a bit of a train behind of us. So the first thing that we need to do, if we check our marker, we have to move our locomotive up front here, just across the switch, in a position where we then can reverse and get our locomotive to the other end of those cars. This is actually the idea of this shunting operation here. We came with this train from the north, are standing here, and we in the end want to get the cars here into this part of the track where the pumps for the ethanol is, and for that we have to be on the other side. So we use this triangle here to get our locomotive on the other side of the cars and then get the cars in here. I wanted to show you this on this overview so that you know what we are actually doing here and what the purpose of our shunting is. Reverser to front. Because at least on one side of the track there is no room for the locomotive on the other side, so we need to put them in. On this side we actually would be able to stand there, but our job is to do it from the other side, and it's actually easier to position your cars if you can see them. So by pushing them in, you can see where your cars are and where the pumps are, so that you can actually put them in the correct place. If you're just driving through, your locomotive is on this end and the car's on the other end, then you would have to look backwards and see where this is. It is easier when you just put them in, because when you just looking out of the window, if you're just looking in front of you, you can see very well where you are. If you look backwards, then the long hood of your locomotive is in between, so the distance to the cars where you can see them. Maybe this is the reason, I don't know. But we got our orders, we have to push them in, we are not supposed to pull them in, so this is what we are doing. What this locomotive has is a modern speed clock here. It does not only show the speed, but in the middle it also shows the rate of acceleration or deceleration, with a plus for acceleration and a minus for deceleration. What is really cool, this works great. I would like to have an instrument like this on other locomotives where you can't really see whether you are accelerating or decelerating. This is an instrument that, yeah, that is a good thing. So, how do we start our locomotive? We already put the reverser in front. We have made sure that the switches are all aligned, and then the independent brake is full on. We build up some power, throttle to 2, release the independent brake. At least on the first shunting movement, we honked the horn twice to make everybody aware that we are going to move. I've read in the operating rules that at least at the beginning of the shunting movements you should do this. If you're, well, moving back and forth, you don't need to do it every time. And I, well, like to do it every time when it seems appropriate. So, locomotive is where it is supposed to be. What are our new orders? We have to move it over there. Set the switches so that we don't go astray. We could go this switch even in this alignment, but it's always better to align it in a way that we don't hit the points. Here you can see one of the bigger freight trains passing, and you can see the snow animation when the train is actually running through the snow and the snow gets blown into the air. It's not perfect yet, but it's actually super nice. I like that they are investing this effort here. Okay, so we are reversing the reverser. Another train is passing by. By the way, if you want to have some wipers cleaning your screens, the valves for that are on top of that. And since we are going in that direction, we set it to bright, I think. And then again, power, independent brake off, and we start moving. If you want, you can honk twice, but as we just said, it is not necessary for every movement. And now, as you can see, if we have our head out of the window where we can actually see where we are going, we don't see the speed clock. So it is actually quite nice if you get apt in estimating your speed, so that you do not speed here the yard limit of 15 miles. And if you can actually feel if you're going between 10 and 15 miles, that's a good thing. So I'm still working on that. I think that we are now going on about 10 to 12 miles. Yeah, this is exactly what we are doing. Here this is the line of 10 and we are at about 11. So I'm still trying to figure out and to train myself to be able to estimate the speed the yard speed so that I do not need the speed clock. Look at those tank cars. Those graphics, they are really, really great. The reflection and so on. And now you can see we are supposed to go there 300 feet or still, and the track is blocked by sleepers. You might be able to see it through the hood, but honestly, we are supposed to go there and the sleepers are there. Are we supposed to break through the sleepers? But it worked. Funny enough, if you turn on the object marker, then you find the object marker behind those sleepers, so it looks actually like an impossible situation, but they changed something in the last update obviously, and they put the actual object marker here in front of those sleepers, because if you're going too far, then you actually reach the end of the represented area and the game ends. So they put the sleepers here so that this does not happen. If you look at the object marker, now it is gone, but if you play it yourself you can see that it is just behind the sleepers. But if you stop in this position, it still works. So, where do we have to go now? We have to reverse back and go the triangle into this direction. Over there, again another glitch. Here it looks like there is no way to get over there, but trust me, there is. There is actually a switch where you can go over. This switch is in the other direction. Align it in no way so that we don't damage the points. Going back into our old cab. We have to go forward again. We can turn the backlight to dim again. I think we don't have to reverse all this light settlement every time. We are going back and forth. So this is actually the view that I like best in driving my locomotive. Head out of the window. I still can see the speed clock, I can see the accelerometer, and I can see my brake pipes and the brake cylinder gauge, and I can see much more compared to what I can see when I have got my head inside the cab. In real life it might be a bit cold to always have your head outside your window, but this is a nice view, and if you turn the camera around you can look back, can see what the end of your train is making or doing, if it is actually already across the switch. And you see more of the scenery than just through this little peephole that you have in front of you if you stay inside. Here, this is the switch that actually exists. See? We're just going over it. Can't see actually the train if you look at it when we're here, but it is working still. And now we have to make sure that we do not run the red signal there. That is stopping us from going out into the open track. What do we have to do now? Now we have to put ourselves on the other end of the train. So this is what we have been doing and why we have been doing this, to get our locomotive on the other end of this consist with the 5 cars. Here they are the cars. Just make sure that we are going the correct way. Yeah, we're not going into this track. Yeah, here actually there is no connection, so no danger that we're going there. Just check if the reverser is in the correct position. We're going backwards. Turn the lights on bright. Power, independent brake off. And get moving. As soon as we are moving, throttle up. And again, estimate. Now we are actually going to cars to couple to them. it is quite obvious that you should not just run into the cars to couple to them, but you should go slowly. And I usually try to stop my train in front of the cars that I want to couple to, and at least when I'm playing it properly. Independent brake on, reverse it to neutral so that my car, oh, it's on the other end. Always get confused. And just make sure that everything is okay, that the couplers are okay, that the couplers are open if they are not automatic couplers. Here, this coupler on the locomotive. We have an end of train device on our locomotive. I don't think this makes a lot of sense, but it will go away. Don't worry. So this is the bar where we can open the coupler on our locomotive. It will close itself again after 1 or 2 seconds. This is because they are automatic couplers. Same here. They are actually animated. You can see it. You open the coupler and it locks itself again, just to make sure they are working, and then back into our locomotive. Close the door so that it does not get too cold for AJ. Reverse it to backwards in a way that we can see where we are going. Actually, when you have your lights on and coupling, you can see on the shine on the ground where, yeah, the distance. You can estimate the distance between you and the cars. Because obviously you can use one of the external cameras, but in real life you would not have those external cameras. You would have a helper probably. You would not do this alone, but yeah, see, that was a smooth coupling. What happened now, because we connected our train to a consist with an empty brake pipe, the PCS went open. This is the pneumatic control switch that always opens if there is something with the brake pipe. This prevents our train from operating now. We cannot apply power. If I try to apply power, it is not working. So set the power to 0, set the reverse it to neutral, the independent brake to full application, what already is the case, and then yank the automatic brakes into emergency, and then wait for 1 minute, and then you can turn back and the light is off. We can actually look at our airflow meter, what happens if I yank the automatic brake into emergency. So look at this black hand here. Nothing happens. Okay, I promised too much. It is obviously not working so well as I thought that it would. So actually I thought it will indicate that the air goes out quite fast, but we could see it on the white hands here that we totally drained our brake pipe. So we have to wait this 1 minute until we can go on. We can use that to actually have a bit of a look at our locomotive and our consist here. See that this locomotive has a handbrake on the outside. When we are on top of the stairs, we can use this to secure our locomotive in place when the engine is out, so that it does not roll away. Couplings have worked. This, by the way, is the brake pipe here, where those hoses are connected. This is the pipe, or the hose, or whatever you want to call it, that runs along the whole length of the train, and that regulates the brake pipe pressure in the brakes that are in the cars. Don't know if you can see them here. Probably not. Probably they are not animated. You can see the brake shoes here. This is the brake shoe, by the way, that is pressed against the wheel to stop the car, to slow down the car. And through this brake pipe here, through the whole length of the train, you regulate the pressure, and by regulating the pressure, you tell each brake distributor on the cars how much brake force to apply. So, do you think that 1 minute passed? I guess. Move it back into release, PCS, open, light goes out, and we can actually proceed with what we are doing. So where do we have to pull our cars, we have to push them, not to pull them, down here, and probably we will be going the same way around the triangle, or at least part of it, that we did with the locomotive. So since we have cars at this end, we can turn off the lights there, and then we have to put the reverser to reverse so that we can actually reverse. And same procedure, throttle, independent brake, more throttle to get it going. And this locomotive, the head of the window view actually allows you to use the mouse to turn your view from looking back to the speedometer. On some locomotives you cannot do that, you have to look all the way around on the other side. But here it works. Now we mustn't forget that our train is a bit longer now than our locomotive. Ah, you wanted me to check how heavy the train is today. The train at the moment is 304 tons. Let's see if it actually gets heavier when we get the ethanol in it. So we got it into this position, we cleared the switch, what is obviously important, because if we are standing on the switch, fouling the switch, then we cannot switch it and go into the other direction. So we are going to stop in this position, obviously that we can reverse and get our cars into this position later. So what we need to do, reverse a front, light is already at front. What we now have, we stopped the train obviously with the air brake, with the automatic brake, because it is now a full train, not only a locomotive. So we switched the brakes, I released the automatic brake, independent on, throttle independent off. It's maybe not so important in this situation, you can just release the automatic and put in some throttle, but it's a good thing if you get this into your routine, like every time you start those locomotives, release the auto brake, fasten the independent brake before, usually, or at the same time, and then start from the independent brake. Especially on a hill, this is crucially on a hill, because then your train does not roll away. And if it is in your routine, then it will just work automatically when you have to start on a hill. So because I said, oh, I stopped a bit short. So what I said, starting process again. Why do I use the air brake as soon as I got cars, and use the independent brake if I only have the locomotive? That is because the independent brake only works at the locomotive, not at the cars, whereas the automatic brake works on the whole train. So if I have a train, I use the automatic brake, and if I only have the locomotive, then the independent brake. There are some exceptions to this, but this is the general rule. To hold the train in place, usually the independent brake is enough so that you can release the air brake that is always a bit slower. Now you can actually see the brake pipe meter moving. So just to show you that I did not promise too much, if you put in the air brake, you can see the brake pipe pressure going down, and then when I release it, you can see the hand moving here. So actually this meter is working. Now the train is held in place by the independent brake. We can look where we are supposed to go. We have to set this switch, and this is where our train is supposed to end up. It's always good to look out of the window on the inside of a curve, because then you can see the end of your train. It is 304 tons at the moment. It will be interesting to see if it actually gets heavier as soon as we put some ethanol in those tank cars. Or if they are already filled. What I was saying after that, quite obvious. If you look out of the window and back on the inside of the curve radius, then you can see the end of your car and what the end of your car, the end of your train is doing. Unless there are obstacles, obviously. On the other side, this is the other side, you can't. So it's always a good idea to look out of this side. Are we going in the correct place? Yeah, it looks good. In the end, we still have to look out of this side, because we want to get the cars in place for getting the ethanol into them. It's actually getting darker. And this is a bit of an estimate where to put the car so that they are actually standing in the correct position for being filled with the ethanol. So let's see where we ended up. It is actually for the game good enough. And let's see if we could actually fill them with those pumps. Unfortunately, it does not require you to put the ethanol actually into the cars. It is working in the game. There are some missions where you actually have to put the ethanol in it, but here you can see it, you have to wait for 10 minutes, and then yeah, and the trees are great. This is the new system on how the snow is actually falling. So yeah, this is where they are supposed to be. This is the pump where you can fill the cars usually, and what you have to do, partially it is working, you have to activate this control panel, then this whatever you might call it, this muzzle is switched over on top of the train, then you can step over on top of your car, open the hatch, grab the muzzle, put it on the hatch, go back, and then you open the valve. And unfortunately you cannot see how it is filling in this mission. On other missions you can. Since it is more fun to actually try doing it instead of waiting the 10 minutes to just pass by, I'm doing this now and pretend that it works. Next one. Only thing I need to be careful about though is that I do not say yes when they ask me if I want to give up this service here. So, 5 cars. This one. Do you want to give up control? No. I think they changed the order of the yes and no option from Train Sim World 2 to Train Sim World 3. So if you're just clicking like you're used to it, you're actually giving up control. What is a bit annoying. So, to find collectibles, yeah, no, I'm not a collectibles guy. But look at this scenery, look at the new... Okay, here's just a bit of a glitch in the new skybox, but look into that direction maybe. This is really nice. Look at this water tower and the other installations. You can just enjoy the scenery. Let's pretend we're done here. Remove the muzzle, close the hatch, turn off the pump. Can actually close. Oh. You should close the valve before you remove the muzzle from the tank, otherwise you will have an environment hazard. And this is going to be expensive. No, probably there is some safety stop. But still, better close it. Oops. Stay close. And the 5th car. Lucky that we don't have a 100 car train from Cajon Pass, right? No. You're receiving a black screen? I'm sorry to hear that. I see a feedback on my own monitor, and AJ obviously is receiving a feedback too. Maybe if you... Well, that is annoying. AJ, any idea how this can happen? Maybe because we are streaming in 4K? Is that possible? Might actually be because we switched the stream to 4K last time, right? But I'm getting a feedback, and well, AJ, you're watching it on a laptop, right? So if the laptop can display the stream. I'm sorry, chill gamers. We have to investigate what this can be. What the problem can be with that. Ten minutes are still not passed. But it stopped snowing. So the dynamic weather that comes with Train Sim World 3 actually works in the old DLC as well. They won't update everything in the old DLCs, but a lot of the new features like the new snow and the new skybox and the dynamic weather, they are actually working. I see. I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe we will have to look into that, how we can transcord this. We will look into this definitely, so next time we will know an answer for that. But it is surprising that you can actually see it, AJ, on the laptop. Okay. Good, but maybe we find some kind of a workaround. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the hint anyway. Did anyone check when we started this 10 minutes period here? I hope it is not too long. Thank you, AJ. Here it looks as if the PCS open light is on, but it is not. It is just because the light is coming in from the side, and I think we will have not a problem to start the train. Is it already more heavy? No, it is not more heavy. It is 304 still. But maybe after the next refresh of the mission. So we will have a bit more time to enjoy the scenery. And what I am really excited about is what those cars look like in the sunlight when they are wet, when they are dry, when snow is on that gleam and shine. That is really fantastic. And also the track with the snow on it. I remember on the Train Sim World 2 there were sometimes really bad rendering when you were driving and in front of you. Now the 10 minutes are over. So that improved a lot. So, let's check where we have to go. We have to go this way again, and then probably we will go back into that position where we came from. Forward. Let's see what our brake status is. Independent brake full on, automatic brake off. Power. Independent brake off, and then it is secured or ensured that you don't roll backwards. So as I promised, PCS open does not apply here. Okay, thank you for the explanation. Maybe we can get Twitch to activate the transcoding for me. Or AJ, you can find out what we need to do to get them to activate the transcoding for us. Yeah, of course, after the stream. Okay, we have to reverse, set the switch. Reverser. Throttle to 2, independent brake off. Wait for the train to start moving slightly. Then you can throttle up a bit. And let's hope that the switches are still set correctly. So at first I thought it is a bit difficult to get all this shunting stuff going without... Oh yeah, the weight. No, it is still the same. I'm sorry, it did not change in this scenario at least. Or this service, it's not a scenario. What I was trying to talk about is, at first I thought it is difficult to do all this shunting stuff without the objective markers and the stop position markers and the HUD on, but it's actually not. If you get a clear view on the map where you want to go and look out of the window on the correct side, then it's actually not really a problem. It's always good to know how long your train is, like 350 feet. Then you know when you run into the stop position. At the moment there are still 440 feet left, so we have to go on a bit. And as soon as the distance that is shown on the top left is below the 350, then we should be okay. Just make sure that we are clear of the switch, and then we can stop our train. Usually the initial reduction is enough to get your train to a stop, and then switch to the independent brake if you're not in a gradient, not in a too steep gradient at least, so that you can start quickly again. Reverse the reverser. Throttle, independent brake. Because it's the last time I actually used the horn again. Yeah, the horn. The klaxon in Great Britain, but here it's the horn. So hopefully we set our switch. But this looks good. But you can see this is the difference of if you're driving in the cab, that you don't see really a lot with the head out of the window position, and with the speed clock in the top right, top left corner, you see so much more of the scenery. So this is why I prefer driving this way. And this is already the service here. But I think we can just go on with the next service here, because we are supposed to take this train to Appleby. The nice thing with the going on with one service into the next is that you do not have to set up your train any further. You can just use the setup that you have. Maybe check if there is something specific for shunting or not, but in this case it isn't. We can just bail off and start. Well, if we release the automatic brake, that is. But here you can see how long it takes for the train to actually start if you forget to release the automatic brake and don't switch over to the independent brake. Oops. I guess you all know the trick, what you can do to freeze your screen and prevent the camera from going with your mouse. If you click with the right mouse key, then you actually freeze the screen and you can use the cursor to operate controls and stuff. And if you want to move the view around, you click right again, and then with right you freeze it again. So this is quite handy. This is the open track. We are still limited to 15 until the train has cleared completely. And for the train to have cleared the switches completely, you can always look back. And if you're looking inside the curve radius, you can usually see very well if the train has fully cleared the switch. It has, you can see it here. We are now at the 60 track. And starting off. The signal that we just passed was quite simple. It was just a dwarf signal with a green lamp, what is obviously a clear one. If it is red, it is obviously a stop one. If it is yellow, it is an approach signal. If it is flashing, what is it then? If it is flashing, something else. We will have a look at this in a very short time. Now we are passing the station of Burlington. Always when passing a station, short honk. And then most of the time just have the bell ringing while passing the station. That's not a nice view. That's better. And we can accelerate. When accelerating, especially on snow, always keep your amp meter in view. You just saw that the amp reading dropped. Sometimes this is due to some technical specifics in the electric equipment of the locomotive. Sometimes this is due because you put too much traction on the track and then your wheel slip for a tiny bit, so that the wheel slip indicator does not light up, but you lose your amps that you built up before. And now we can actually accelerate properly. We've got a clear signal here, green on the top. That is obviously a clear, and we can go full track speed. Full throttle to go to the 60. And at this point I want to ruin the fun a bit and switch to our tutorial. How does it work with the signals in Canada? They have, unlike the United States, a unified system where everything is the same throughout the whole country, and it is called the Canadian Rail Operating Rules System, and they have a lot of different signal aspects, because every signal usually tells you what you are supposed to do now and what you are supposed to do and what you are supposed to expect on the next signal. So I've built a matrix to get all those different aspects ordered so that you can memorize them more easily. Like every signaling system, you have this this square. You have obviously a clear speed and you have a stop. Stop means you mustn't go anywhere, you have to stop, 0 miles per hour, and clear means you can go line speed. And in between, every signaling system in the United States or Canada can fill that with different values. We know that from the streams that we have before, that most railroads define some speed steps like limited, medium, slow, and so on. And we have something like this in Canada also. This is Canadian Railroad Operating Rules, and obviously the green and the red are the same in every system in the United States and in Canada. The green means you can go clear line speed, and the red means you have to stop. The red can look like this in Canada: 3 heads on red, 2 heads on red if there are only 2 heads on the signal, and if there is only 1 head, a single red one needs to have this A plate, what means absolute, and this is a stop. Then if this A plate is not there and it is only a red marker, unless it is a dwarven signal like we just passed, it's just talking about the overhead signals, then it is stop and proceed. We will see that in a second. And then we have a system, this is why we have so many boxes here on this matrix, where every signal apart from that is usually telling you what you're supposed to do now and what you're supposed to do later. But first let's have a look on the different speeds that are defined in the Canadian system. You have a limited speed that is defined with 45 miles, a medium speed that is defined with 30 miles, a slow speed with 15, and obviously we have a restricted speed that is defined. You cannot go faster than with a speed that allows you to stop on the half distance that you can see. On broken rail, on a movement from the other side, on everything that requires a stop, max 15. Even if you can look for or see the track for 10 miles ahead of you, you can only go 15. And then there is a special speed that we have not seen so far. It is diverging, what is defined with 25. It's something between slow and medium. And a reduced speed, what is for our purposes a bit like a more favorable restricted speed, still on half sight if there is any movement coming towards you, but you can go max 25. We see where this comes in. And then we can have a look at our restricted signals. The restricted signals can look like this in the Canadian system, the yellow on the bottom. If there are 3 heads, it's on the bottommost. If there are 2, also on the bottommost. We have seen them in some American systems as well. Red over yellow is a typical restricted aspect, so in Canada. Special for the Canadian system, a red with an R plate, not an A plate, what means a stop, but a red with an R plate actually makes the red more favorable and allows you to pass the signal with restricted speed. Also 2 red lamps with the R plate. So we already see that in the Canadian system sometimes you have to check what plates there are on the signal to actually understand what it is telling you. These signals are on this dividing line because they more or less govern the whole part of track from the signal that you're passing up to the next. You can't enter this when you have a red light, and you can just go clear through the whole part of the track if you have a green light, and you have to go with a restricted speed usually through the whole track if you got a restricted here until it is lifted somewhere. And then you have signals that tell you what to do now and what to expect later. And there are signals that tell you later it will be clear. Now you have to go limited. You know this use of the red of the green lamp, put in the middle, moved down 1 and have it flashing, then it is a limited indication. This is what we would have in the American system, telling you as a limited clear. Go limited now. After you're through the switches, you can go back to clear. Similar in the Canadian system, it tells you limited to clear. You have to go limited now. On the next signal, you can go clear. You have to expect clear. And the same system works through medium. Here it is not flashing. Green on the middle, typically medium. American would read it as an medium clear, and here is it medium to clear. The same works with slow if you put it on the bottommost, and again, just like with the restricted ones, if it is in the bottommost, it can be on a 2-headed signal with only 1 red lamp on top of it, or with 2 red lamps on top of it if it is a 3-headed signal. So this will be ruling principle that we will see in a couple of signals where it is important if it is the bottommost lamp here. And obviously there is no clear to clear signal, because a clear to clear signal would be a clear signal just, but on the to limited we have the possibility to have a clear to limited. That tells us you can go full track speed now, but expect to encounter a limited on the next one. And how do we build this? We take actually the signal for a clear with the green on top of it and put the aspect that you have to expect at the next signal in the bottommost. So the flashing green, what is typically for the limited speed, is on the bottommost. Here the same. We take the upper two lamps from the limited, green in the middle, flashing, and put the one that we expect on the third aspect, the flashing green for the limited. So this signal is a limited to limited. Limited now and expect limited on the next signal. Same principle here. Topmost from this row, medium aspect, medium to limited. So you can see those signals here always take the first two lamps from the column where they belong to, limited to limited, medium to limited. On the third head, on the bottommost one, they have the signal that is typical for what is to expect. Slow is a bit different because obviously the bottommost one is already filled, so you can, if you put the one that you have to expect on the bottommost, there is no room for this aspect. So we use the flashing yellow in the middle to express the slow now, slow to limited. And then we can just fill the matrix. We use again our clear and put the single non-flashing green on the bottom to say this is a clear to medium. Same here. You take the two on the top from the limited column and put the non-flashing green on the bottommost. Same here, and here again the flashing yellow is the slow to and the steady green is the medium, slow to medium. Clear to slow, we have the flashing yellow that we already saw here for the slow aspect now on the bottom to tell us this is a clear to slow. Limited to slow, medium to slow, slow to slow, again two lamps on top and up here, and on the third one it is the flashing yellow to tell us that it is a slow, slow to slow, medium to slow, limited to slow. And actually this works with approaching a restricted signal as well, but now we switch the color of the topmost one. We are no longer using the green one because we are approaching a restricted aspect, what is a very restricting aspect, so we don't want to show any greens anymore. So we put the yellow on top of it that we know in the American system and every other North American system and probably every system in the world as a warning aspect, the yellow approach on top of it, and it is distinguished from the normal approach signal that the bottommost red lamp is flashing. Flashing red is another instrument to tell you it is almost a stop, but not quite, so we can go on with restricted speed. We've seen this in the Caltrain system when we did the baby bullet stream, and it reappears here as well. Then we just use the same building principle here. We just switch the color from red over flashing green. In the limited row we go to red over flashing yellow, and then again on the bottommost it is the flashing red to tell us that we have to expect a restricting signal. Same here, the green one here is turned to a yellow here, the flashing red on the bottom is still there. The other ones we cannot really fill because we have already used up the flashing yellow. And so we cannot have signals like a slow to restricted, but from 15 to max 15 is probably something that you don't really need to know. And for the approach, we have the typical clear to stop, it is called in the Canadian system. In the American system it is an approach. Or it is a limited approach if you move it down and have it flashing. Here again, topmost lamps are the same, and at the bottom it stops flashing the red one, and it is just a steady red telling you that it is not only a restricting that you are running up to, but you have to actually stop at the end of it. And those signals here, the approach, the limited approach, the medium approach, the slow approach, you have them just with the same signals in the Caltrain rules, for example. In the American system, they have those American names. Here in Canada, they are called clear to stop, limited to stop, medium to stop, slow to stop. So this is the ruling principle to fill all the thing is. Here we have this other ruling principle again, that on a two-headed signal, it is the bottommost that decides. So the flashing yellow is also a slow to stop if it is on the bottommost. We have a stop and proceed that we know from various American railways, typically with red signals with a number plate. Here we don't have a number plate, but a two-headed red lamped signal where the signal lamps are shifted. They are not in a straight line on top of each other, but they are shifted, is only a stop and proceed, not a full stop like on the bottom. Sometimes you get those signals that are shifted. If it is not denoted otherwise in this matrix here, they just mean the same as the non-shifted signals. But here it is actually a difference. The straight signal is a straight stop, and the shifted one is a stop and proceed, meaning you have to stop and then you can go on with restricting speed. And a simple red one overhead, not on the floor, is a stop and proceed as well, if it does not have this A plate that tells you it's an absolute stop here. This is why I put this stop then category here, because it's a bit like the what do you have to do now and what can you do later. You have to stop now and later you can go on with restricted here. What do we do with diverging? Diverging is a category of its own. We don't really have aspects in color or flashing for it. What we do to build the same stuff for the diverging row and column, we put a DV plate for diverging on the slow aspect. So we can actually upgrade all the slow aspects that we have here to a diverging aspect if we put the diverging plate to it. And this works through the whole line. We take this slow aspect, put a diverging on it, and then we have a limited to diverging and not a limited to slow, allowing the train to go 10 miles more on the next signal. Medium to diverging, the same, and works the same in the other way, like diverging to clear. Again, we just take the slow aspects here and put the DV plate on it, and then we have a diverging now. We can go now 25 and then it is clear, instead of we can go now 15 and then it is clear. And the same here, diverging to limited, diverging to medium. And now here those two lines cross, and well, we also have those signals here that are diverging to stop. We just take the slow aspect, put the diverging aspect on it, and this one is where the lines all cross, right? We have this aspect here with a DV plate, and this is a diverging to diverging instead of a slow to slow. These two slots are empty because they would, if we filled them, look just like this one, red over flashing yellow over flashing yellow with a DV plate, and so we could not tell them apart. So a slow to diverging and a diverging to slow is actually not defined. We just use this diverging to diverging and slow to slow. Yeah, next thing that you need to know, what makes things a bit more complicated, is that obviously not all the signals can have a flashing aspect here, and you can upgrade a medium aspect to a limited aspect by putting this this triangle with the L in it, this plaque on it. This works with the medium to clear to promote it to a limited to clear. This works with a limited to restricted, and the same way with a limited to stop. I haven't seen this in the game, but it is in the rules, so you need to know this third ruling principle, that you can upgrade medium aspects with an L plate, but it only works with the clear, with the restricted, and with the stop, if you look into the plates. Then, to make it even more complicated, the clear to some restricted speeds do not only use these aspects that are just built with taking the clear aspect and putting the defining aspect that is to be expected on the bottommost signal had, but we can also use what I call the American versions of it, the approach versions with the yellow on top of it that we know from down here. We already start with our clear to limited with the yellow on top of it, and then the limited aspect like we know it from the limited clear. And this signal has more or less the same indication in most American systems, where it is not called clear to limited, but it is called a approach limited. Also, you can use the non-flashing version with the L plate to have the same effect, and the same ruling principle works with the clear to medium, what in the United States you would typically call an approach medium. And here we know that from the Caltrain system as well, the double yellow is typically used for slow. So we have it for the clear to slow in the American version, where we would have an approach slow. In the American version, where the DV plate is an approach diverging, or in Canadian terms, clear to diverging. So you can see that these American versions with the yellow on top of it, and the Canadian versions with the two upper lamps from the clear signal, they merge here when it goes into the restricted, because then the yellow is on top of it, and they end up with the typical yellow over red approach signal that we know in almost every signal system. So these two lines converge there and make the same signals on the end here. If you use those Americanized versions from the clear to limited and so on signals, you can also build advanced clear to limited, advanced clear to medium, advanced clear to diverging, advanced clear to slow, and so on signals, if you just set the topmost yellow lamp into flashing. So this is an advanced clear to limited, telling you that on the next signal you have to expect an clear to limited signal, and so on. Here, advanced clear to medium. On the next signal you have to expect a clear to medium. So in 2 signals time you will be reduced to medium. Until then you can go with line speed. And the same here. Just set the topmost lamp flashing and you have the advanced version. Advanced clear. Now there is no restriction. On the next one there is still no restriction, because there is a clear to signal, and on the second signal there will be the restriction that is indicated. And then there are some more signals of the shifted variety that, well, I will put into the matrix to make it complete. If you have a green over a flashing red, it is a medium to restricted. You just more or less left out the topmost red for this aspect here. If it is flashing, it is a limited to restricted, so you can actually go faster. Green flashing is typically the limited version of the medium version. If it is a yellow one over the flashing red, it is clear to restricted. You can go faster with the yellow lamp over the flashing red than with a green lamp. This is a bit awkward, but still that is how it is defined. And then the same works with the clear to slow in the shifted variety, and the clear to diverging if you put this on it. That's almost it. Next thing that we still have is this weird signal, where you use this version of the restricting signal, put a DV plate on it, and then you have a signal that is just called diverging. It is not really in the system that we had before, so this is why I put this reddish part underneath it. It tells you that you have to go across the switches with reduced speed, not faster than diverging. So this is this more or less relieved or a bit upgraded version of the restricted. And I think after the interlockings and switches, you can actually go back to line speed. That was a long lesson. I'm sorry for that, But if you understand the ruling principles in all this mess, then you can memorize it much better than if you just learn those signals with flashcards. At least that is my experience. And then you have actually the whole signaling system for the whole country, Canada. Canadian Rail Operating Rules. That's it. We can go back to train driving. Where's my game here? Those are the signals from the back. Obviously they don't have any aspects at all. We have to slow down now a bit so that we don't speed. There's actually a lot of uphill, downhill in this DLC on this route. By the way, the alerter on this route is really nice. If you look on this device here, if you don't press the alerter or if you don't use any controls within 60 seconds or something, then it will start flashing in a very neat way. I hope we get this until the end of the stream. Again, you could see that we lost our amps, probably because of a minor wheel slip. And we have to build it up again. But maybe this loss of amps has something to do with some phenomena that are going on in the generator or in the alternator or in the traction motors. Maybe I find something on this, but probably it is just that we apply too much traction. Clear signal, we can go. With our line speed of 60. Closing in on Appleby. What is another station? And again, I'd be so happy if they would... Appleby? Well, yeah, I'm not so happy about that name, but that is what it is. Good thing is, even with the head out of the window, you cannot bump your head on any obstacles that there are. Well, what I really do love is the blue color of the roofs of those platforms. What I have not seen in this DLC so far are whistle boards. Better than banana bee. Yeah, that's true. There are some level crossings, but I have not managed to spot any whistle boards. What we are now approaching is a flashing yellow over red over red. If you think back to our matrix, this is an advanced clear to stop, telling us we can go on with line speed, but be prepared to stop at the second signal from here. And I missed the level crossing and started honking much too late. In Canada there is also the 14L rule that requires you to honk your horn in the pattern long, long, short, long, 20 seconds before you pass the level crossing, and that was obviously much too short. And I blame the absence of the whistle boards for that. That was better. There is a dwarf signal, red, allowing no traffic from the siding to run onto the main track, what is good because we are on the main track. There is beauty in this DLC, isn't it? Here you can see some of the signals of the shifted variety, giving us an approach. That was to be expected, that was what we have been warned about. So I let the train coast, even slow it down a bit. It is an approach that is in Canada a clear to stop, meaning I actually don't have to reduce my speed necessarily, but obviously I will do that so that I am prepared to stop at the next signal. So maybe 30 miles medium speed is a good speed to approach a red signal. In real life you would have your track knowledge, knowing exactly where the next signal is, so that you can time your speed reduction and still be able to stop in front of the next signal. Yeah, what I was trying to say before, I would love to see some passenger services here. I have to admit, it is a bit short. The whole route is a bit short for passenger services. But some passenger trains layering in would really add a nice touch to this DLC. A lot of industrial buildings, plants that actually have their own rail tracks that always come in as sidings here. And yeah, AG, you're right. The trees look absolutely fabulous, I think, with the snow on top of them. So, next signals are incoming. I cannot read the signals yet, but since I was warned that I will have to stop on the next signal, I'm actually slowing down so that I can stop my train in case the signals are actually red. This is what the indication means. Be prepared to stop at the next signal. But from what we can see, we have a green lamp on this shifted signal. Green over over red, non-flashing red, means, well, that this is a clear signal. We can go on. So obviously the signal cleared in the meantime while we were approaching it. We don't have to stop. We don't have to slow down. We can actually speed up again. Back to 60 line speed. You see the R plate on this signal. So even if this was a red signal, it would not have been even if it had been a red signal, it would not have been a complete stop signal, but it would have allowed us to pass it with restricted speed. But doesn't matter, it is a clear signal anyway. So while speeding up, we have to look at our timetable, and from the timetable we know that we have to slow down to 30 in a bit more than 2 miles, and then later to 15, because we are going into the yard. So with all the favorable signals on our side, we still have to keep to the timetable and to the track limit there. Level crossing, 14L pattern. That was the too long. Short one. Long. Bell off as soon as the loco has cleared the level crossing. Yeah, we can actually go on a bit more with our speed here. The speed signs on the track side are a bit confusing in this DLC sometimes. You will see us passing a 30 speed sign even before the track limit drops to 30. So I'm not sure if this is a mistake or what else. Here you can see the 30 sign, and definitely the speed limit is not going down to 30, it is going down to 30 just in a bit more than 1 mile. I've tried to find out if this is some sort of an advanced aspect with this speed sign, but from what I can read in the rules, it's not. It is supposed to order a reduction in track speed to 30 right now. So, and now we are a bit confused because we got a clear signal. And what is here again? No, we're not confused. All good. This is just an approach clear to stop. Or in American terms, an advanced approach. Nothing happens until we get to the second signal from here. Just have to get to our 30. Okay. We'll just let it coast down to 30. Or with a very, very slight application of the brakes. The last update actually gave us working crossing gates here. At least that's what they claim. I've never actually tested them if they are working, because every time we are passing here with a train, they are obviously closed. Another bridge over a river. And some sort of street. Or road, more like. The signal aspects. Well, because I built the matrix that I just showed you, this is how I can memorize it. Couldn't memorize it if there was not any ruling principle and stuff in it. And it's actually fun to compare the different signaling systems, see what is working the same way, what is working in a different way. This is Oakville Station, by the way, with this parking garage. Well, I think this is a very, very beautiful DLC. And I like this old locomotive. The GP9. Okay. I let the speed drop because we're actually approaching the reduction in line speed of 15. When we are going off the main track again and then into the yard, every time you see spikes like this in the speed line, then it is an indication that they are most probably going across a switch and then crossing part of the track that allows you to go faster, and then on a switch again. So in the end we will have to end up with restricted speed, meaning 15, because we can actually see the track very well here. No obstacles, no bends. And then we actually get a signal that is restricted. Non-flashing yellow on the bottommost. This is giving us a restricted aspect. What is a bit weird, because the last signal that we got was an advanced clear to stop, and now we are getting a restricted. Good thing we had to slow down because of the timetable anyway. So keeping the speed between 10 and 15. The accelerometer on our speed clock is working really fast and really well here. I remember the what's it called? The ACE 70 locomotive from Sherman Hill. It has an accelerometer, but it is super slow and it is not really working in a way that you can use it. This accelerometer on this speed clock, it is fast. You can work with it. So we're going across all the switches. Forgot the level crossing. My honking being a bit late, I'm sorry. Look at this light effect here. The headlights of this loco in the snow. Now that it's getting darker a bit. And since we're closing into the end of the stream and this service, look at the trees again in the fading sunlight. Kudos to DTG for that. This is something that worked out really well. Also the animation when the snow gets blown in the air when the train passes. Can still be worked on, but I love it. And here they actually put some trains and cars into the yard so that it does not look so empty. Last 1,000 yards. And the sunlight is fading. Can just turn off the throttle, let the train coast. Accelerometer tells you that we are losing 1 mile per, what is it? Actually don't know what units they use. But it just tells you that we are slowing down very slowly. Is it 1 mile per minute that we are 1 mile per hour per minute that we are losing? Maybe. Something like this would make sense. Those signals that you can see up front are the end of this DLC, of this route. What's this place called? Can't see it here. Something like Windsor Street. Does it tell you on the pause screen? No, it doesn't. Now the hill that we are rolling uphill is slowing down the train almost without us being in a position where we have to use the brakes. Almost coming to a standstill on its own. 5 or 6 miles that we're going now. 200 feet. The last 100 feet. Just make sure that you do not foul the switch. Now I just saw the alerter for a very, very short. Last 10 yards. Won't get closer than 4 feet, I guess. And that's it. Go back to free roam so that I can have a last look. Oh, already this guy took over and he has a second man, so I cannot really use the external cameras anymore. You can see that the AI drivers get the train to line speed quite fast. They usually do not pay a lot of attention to alerters and stuff. And well, just let's sit in the train. Or what we can do, we can go up and play a bit I'm the king of the world here. What signal is this? It is a flashing yellow on the bottommost signal, telling you that it is a slow to stop signal. Slow now, stop on the next signal. I will just stay on this until the game fades me out. Now they are slowing down because they know the next signal will be a stop signal. Or no, what? Jump down. I've never jumped down actually in this game. I will do it now. Flop. Bye bye train. Was nice driving you. I think you will be bound for Toronto or something like this. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you AJ for moderating, and see you on Sunday with another stream.